Greetings, my fellow freedom loving sovereign thinkers. This is LL2's News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Monday, December 17th, 2018. So let us begin. Thanks for tuning in, my friends. Just, beautiful day here. I have to be at work later on. Good grief, I hate that. I decided to do a show outside again, out in the patio. Pretty cool. So you hear some police sirens out here and maybe some construction. But pretty mellowed as we speak. People are shopping. Looks like some of the when the recess began in the colleges. That's all well and good. Yeah, and I was reading some articles pertaining to a few things. I know it looks like the Yellow Jacket movement is being enhanced to other parts of Europe, neighboring Belgium, from France, Holland, possibly Germany. It's like the whole saying, when government knows best, it turns to crap. They're a form of neo-mercantile economy. Socialism doesn't matter. It's an economic tyranny. People have to really look at that and look what's occurring little by little. And of course, they talk about the gas tax, which you all know is just a pimple. But they want to talk about the mass migration program the European Union was offering. Of course, you got guys like Emmanuel Macron wants imperialism based on the rhetoric he used at the Washington, D.C. House of Chambers. So you got that. You got lousy foreign policies from these particular countries and bombing the crap out of them, whether it's physical or financial. You got to look at all sides of this matter. Now, I say weak, tyrannical foreign policies, Club of Rome, that connects to the one world order. Those are the areas you always gotta keep tabs. Everyone goes, "Oh, United States may be next." Some people are laughing, but we got one thing called the 10th Amendment, nullification. It does work on the state and local level. It takes a matter of time. That's just how it is, because they did everything by baby steps on creating tyranny for what it is today. We can counter it with that particular move. Don't live in fear. Take action. That suits you best. Multiple avenues. You don't have to go out in the streets and hoot and holler. Be the rabbi and the teacher. Lay out facts. Do a podcast. Hey, that's cool. Nothing wrong with that. Information war. That's the name of the game. They want to use the mind control ordeal as well. Find us amongst each other, and they have the magic wand theory. And of course, there's some read something in the WorldNet Daily in reference to robots with surveillance programs. Yeah, can we say Big Brother 1984, like Alexia, right, from Amazon? Of course, privacy activist groups are up in arms, which I don't blame them one bit. So I recommend all you parents out there, don't buy these material things that are glamorous, can be very treacherous. I always prefer to give your kids gifts of knowledge, wisdom, intellectual ammunition. And of course, what's going on in Venezuela proves that victim disarmament is a total failure. When you disarm the people, who benefits? Organized crime, corrupt governments, regardless of their partisan politics or economic beliefs, once again. Happened in the United States when they didn't allow certain people to own firearms, post-revolutionary blacks. A lot of the southern states and even northern states did the same thing. Great documentary to check out, No Guns for Negroes. I know I posted it on my past episode, but take a look at it. Go jpfo.org, type in No Guns for Negroes. Share it to everybody. Knowledge is power. Ignorance, blatant ignorance, is enslavement. And it even happened at Wounded Knee, when the Sioux Indians surrendered their farms to the government. And look what happened. The bottom line is this, my friends. Regardless where you live, you never trust the government, period. In Latin means control of the mind. You hear a truck screeching its brakes. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and many others warned us about this, including Patrick Henry. Tell me which nation the government serves the people. Well, I'm just paraphrasing. You always look at those things, my friends. So I had a good, real nice Bill of Rights day on the 15th. I had to work, but I just spread the information. And if you want to check out my show, that came out past Friday. Happy birthday, Bill of Rights. Good stuff. And every time you hear my episode, download, share, hit that like button, even on Spreaker. Get more recognition. And not being arrogant or egotistical either. So, enough of my digression. Sorry about that, folks. I just like to speak my mind at times. Try not to not read out of a cue card either. Alright, well, speaking of free speech, and John Jay warns us about being influenced by foreign nations. This came out today by Glenn Greenwald from The Intercept. Like him or not, he has some good articles in here. Always appreciate it. I never met the man, so I can't really make any judgment. It says here, Texas elementary school speech pathologist refused to sign a pro-Israel oath, now mandatory in many states. So she lost her job. And many states have these anti-bds laws. Illegal, unconstitutional on a state level. All you gotta do is read the state constitution, my friend, which includes Texas. So hopefully my fellow brothers and sisters in Texas should do their homework and support this woman regardless, because yours can be next. Well, it just says here, a children's speech pathologist who has worked with for the last 9 years with developmentally disabled, autistic, and speech-impaired elementary school students in Austin, Texas, has been told she can no longer work with the public school district after she refused to sign an oath vowing she does not and will not engage in a boycott of Israel or otherwise take any action that is intended to inflict economic harm on that foreign nation. A lawsuit on her brief behalf was filed early Monday morning in a federal court in the Western District of Texas, alleging a violation of her First Amendment right of free speech. It's interesting because I'm going to discuss it in their own the state's constitution. The child language specialist, Bahia Amawi, is a U.S. citizen who received a master's degree in speech pathology in 1999 and since then has specialized in evaluations for young children with language difficulties. There's a video below, you can see the interview. Amani was born in Austria and has lived in the U.S. for the last 30 years. Fluently speaks 3 languages, English, German, and Arabic, and has 4 U.S.-born children of her own. So, if she was a pathetic conformist, they'll give her the red carpet treatment. But if you're a critical thinker and productive, they're going to crucify you. Ethically speaking, right? Absolutely. So as I continue, Amami began working in 2009 on a contract basis with the Pflugerville Independent School District, which includes Austin, to provide assessments and support for school children from counties growing Arabic-speaking immigrant community. So it's interesting here, so you got to always. I'll continue on. The children with whom she has worked span the age of 3 to 11 ever since her work for the district began in 2009. Her contract was renewed each year with no controversy or problem. It's like you hear that, right? So nothing. No controversy or problem. But this year, all that changed. On August 13th, the school district once again offered to extend her contract for another year by sending her essentially the same contract and set of certifications she has received and signed each year, end of each year since 2009. She is prepared to sign her contract renewal until she noticed one new and extremely significant addition. A certification she is required to sign pledging that she does not currently boycott Israel and that she will not boycott Israel during the term of contract, and that she shall refrain from any action that is intended to penalize, inflict economic harm on, or limit commercial relations with Israel, or with a person or entity doing business in Israeli or an Israeli-controlled territory. So he's saying that we are technically occupied, right? You know how that goes. Bank of England, Israel, they're all in the same global family. I'll continue on here. The language of affirmation of Amawi was told that she must sign reads like Orwellian or McCarthyite, self-parody, the classical political loyalty oath that every American should instinctively shudder upon reading. This is it says right here on Roman numeral 1, pursuant to section 2270.001 of Texas Government Code. The contractors affirmed that it does not currently boycott, and 2, will not boycott Israel during the term of contract. And continue on here, pursuant to 2270.001 of the Texas Government Code. 1, boycott Israel means refuse to deal with, terminating business activities with, or otherwise taking any action that is intended to penalize, inflict economic harm on, or limit commercial relations specifically with Israel, or with the person or entity doing business in Israel or an Israeli-controlled territory, but does not include an action made for ordinary business and purpose. And 2, company means for profit, proprietorship, organization, association, corporation, partnership, joint venture, limited partnership, limited liability partnership, or any limited liability company, including a wholly owned subsidiary, majority owned subsidiary, parent company, or affiliate of those entities or business associations that exist to make a profit. So she refused to sign this. All right. And it was interesting saying, hey, I'm a sovereign person. You got to tell me I got to be owned by them? Hey, brother. You might have, you got me. All right. That language would bar Amawi not only from refraining from buying goods from company located within Israel, but also from any Israeli companies operating in that occupied West Bank and Israeli-controlled territory. An oath given to Amawi would likely to prohibit her from advocating such a boycott, given that such speech could be seen as intended or to penalize, inflict economic harm on, or limit commercial relations with Israel. John Jay will be rolling his grave for sure, right? Wherever one owns views, boycotting Israel to stop its occupation is a global political movement modeled in the 1980s boycott aimed at South Africa. You know what's funny about that? I remember that time. That helped the end the country's system of racial apartheid. What's funny about that? I remember that time, even in the 70s, they talk about the whole thing of boycotting Israel. But what happened in Uganda, the hidden genocide, which General Idi Amin Dada was responsible for slaughtering 300,000 of his own people, mostly Christians. The hidden genocide, that wasn't talked about. And of course, the whole incident, that conflict within Nigeria. And a lot of folks had to seek refuge from other countries, including the United States. But, just give you a little history lesson. Yeah, look it up. It's very intriguing. Now we'll proceed. It has become so mainstream that 2 newly elected members of the U.S. Congress explicitly support it. While boycotting Israeli companies in the occupied territory have been long advocated in the mainstream venues by Jewish Zionist groups such as Peace Now and Jewish American Zionist writer Peter Beinart. This required certification about Israel was the only one in the contract sent to Amawi that pertained to political opinions and activism. There were no similar clauses relating to children, such a vow not to advocate for pedophiles or child abusers. nor were there any required political oaths that pertain to the country where she is a citizen and where she lives and works, the United States. Just to let you folks know, even Congressman Ted Deutsch supports anti-boycott Israeli material himself. He calls it anti-Semitic. I don't know when Jonos became Semites. Answer that question, please. In order to obtain contracts in Texas, then, a citizen is free to denounce and work against the United States to advocate for causes that directly harm American children, even to support a boycott of a particular U.S. state, such as was done in 2017 to North Carolina in protest of its anti-LGBT law. In order to continue work, Amari would be perfectly free to engage in any political activism against their own country, participate in an economic boycott of any or city within the U.S., or work against policies of any other government in the world except Israel. Yeah, so it's like a thing called an exceptionalism. That's one's extraordinary aspect of this story. The sole political affirmation Texans like Amawi are required to sign in order to work with the school district's children is one designed to protect not the United States or the children of Texas, but the economic interest of Israel. As Amawi put it to The Intercept, it is baffling that they can throw this down our throats and decide to protect another country's economy versus protecting our constitutional rights. Amawi concluded that she could not truthfully or in good faith sign the oath because, in conjunction with the family, she has made a household decision to refrain from purchasing goods from Israeli companies in support of the global boycott to end Israel's decades-long occupation of the West Bank and Gaza. Amawi is a mother of 4 young children and a professional speech pathologist that is not a leader of any political movement. She has simply made a consumer choice to support the boycott by avoiding the purchase of products of Israeli companies in Israel or occupied West Bank. Also occasionally participates in peaceful activism in defense of Palestinian self-determination that includes advocacy of the global boycott to end the Israeli occupation. Interesting there. Of course, it's a 3-minute video. You can watch it for yourself. We have a lot of folks here hanging out, That was all well and good. When asked if she's considered signing the pledge in order to preserve her ability to work, Amawi told The Intercept, absolutely not. I couldn't, in good conscience, do that. If I did, I would not only be betraying Palestinians suffering under an occupation that I believe is unjust and thus become conflict in their repression, but I also be betraying my fellow Americans by nailing violations of our constitutional rights to free speech and protest peacefully. You get out of the state of Texas as well. As a result, Amari informed her school district supervisor that she could not sign the oath, as her complaint against the school district explains. She asked why the personal political stance about Israel and Palestine impacted her work as a speech, language, and pathologist. In response, Amari's supervisor promised that she would investigate whether there are any ways around this barrier, but the supervisor ultimately told Amawi there were no alternatives. Either she would have to sign the oath, or the district would be legally barred from paying her under any type of contract. Because Amawi, to her knowledge, is the only certified Arabic-speaking child speech pathologist in the district. It's quite possible that the refusal to renew her contract will leave dozens of young children with speech pathologists without any competent expert to evaluate their condition and treatment needs. So she's dedicated more to children. But the school district said, we gotta support Israel. And don't get me wrong, folks. If you hear my show for a long time, it's not condemning the people. There's a lot of beautiful folks in that area. But the government, you gotta really be leery of, because remember, government in Latin, once again, means control of the mind. Alright, I will continue on. I got my master's in this field and devoted myself to this work because I was always wanted to service for children. Amawi said it is vital early age assessments of possible speech impairments or psychological conditions can be administered by those who understand child's first language. In other words, Texas Israel loyalty oath requirement victimizes not just Amawi, an American who is barred from working in the professional field to which she has devoted her life, but also the young children in the need of her expertise and experience that she has spent years after years developing. Anti-bds Israel oath. was included in Myers contract papers due to an Israeli-specific state law enacted on May 2nd, 2017 by Texas state legislator and signed into law 2 days later by GOP Governor Greg Abbott. And I'm trying to figure this out. Nothing against Abbott personally, but he chose poorly. There's some things he did good on, but this one here I'm highly disappointed. Because technically, you look at it, folks, anyone who voted for this breached their oath of office, regardless of what party they're in. All right? So it says here, the bill unanimously passed the lower house by a vote of 131-0, and then by the Senate by a vote of 25-4. What? You know, just stop being a bunch of goody two shoes. But don't mess with Texas, except for if you're Israel, right? When Governor Abbott signed the bill in the ceremony held at the Austin Jewish Community Center, he proclaimed any anti-Israel policy is anti-Texas policy. Oh, so not the Lone Star State anymore, right? As we said, we're the Occupy Star State. That's what he's saying, in my view. The bill's language is so sweeping that some victims of Hurricane Harvey, which devastated Southwest Texas in late 2017, were told that they could only receive state disaster relief if they first signed a pledge never to boycott Israel. I remember that too. I remember reading about that. That demand was deeply confusing to those hurricane victims in desperate need of help who could not understand what their views of Israel policy had to do with the ability to receive assistance from their state government. Evangelical author of the Israel bill, Texas State Representative Phil King, said at the time that his application to hurricane relief was a misunderstanding, but nonetheless emphasized that the bill's purpose was indeed to ensure that no public funds ever go to anyone who supports a boycott of Israel. Well, folks, like I said, you don't trust the government. And as far as I'm concerned, Representative Phil King may point himself out saying, I'm a Christian Zionist. At the time, Texas enacted a law barring contractors from supporting a boycott of Israel. It was the 17th state in the country to do so. As of now, 26 states have enacted such laws, including blue states run by Democrats such as New York, California, and New Jersey, while similar bills are pending in other 13 states. This bill, complied by Palestine Legal, shows how persuasive various forms of Israel loyalty oath requirements have become in the U.S. The states in the red are the ones where such laws already been enacted, while the states in the darker shade, such bills are pending. And you can see it right here. And pretty pathetic. I say it for sure, even my home state of Florida. And of course, Governor-elect Ron DeSantis, we are a pro-Israel state. No, sir. You should be a pro-Florida state. With that statement you made, you officially breached your oath of office before you got in under Article 2, Section 5 of the Florida Constitution. The vast majority of American citizens are therefore now officially barred from supporting a boycott of Israel without incurring some form of sanction or limitation imposed by their state. And the relatively few Americans who are still free to form views on this hotly contested political debate without being officially punished are in danger of losing their freedom as more and more states are poised to enact similar censorship schemes. This thing we call nullification. That's the remedy. One of the first states to impose such representative restrictions on free expression was New York. In 2016, Democratic Governor Andrew Cuomo issued an executive order directing all agencies under his control to terminate any and all business with companies or organizations that support a boycott of Israel. If you boycott Israel, the New York State will boycott you. Ooh. Cuomo prodded tweetly to refer to a Washington Post op-ed he wrote that touted the threat in its headline. As an Intercept reported at the time, Cuomo's orders require that one of his commissioners complied and listed institutions and companies that either directly or through a parent subsidiary support a boycott. That government list then is posted publicly and burdens the walls on accused boycotts to prove to the state that they do not, in fact, support such a boycott. Like the Texas law, Cuomo's Israel order reads like a parody of McCarthy era. And it says it right down here. I like it. We'll just read the highlighted here. And it says it right here on shall develop a list of institution companies that Commissioner determines using credible information available to the public participate in boycott, divestment, or sanctions activity targeting Israel, either directly or through a parent or subsidiary. Such list, when completed, shall be posted on the website of the Office of General Services. How nice. And it says it here on C, I'll read the highlight. It says here, shall allow such institutional company appear or at least 90 days to present the Commissioner with evidence that the institution or company does not in fact participate in a boycott, divestment, or sanction activity targeting Israel, either directly or through a subsidiary, parent, or subsidiary. See, look at that. It's funny, you know, when you hear these yahoos, father-like sons, a typical politician is going to tell people how to think and how to what be ran. You want a servant or you want a nanny? He's just an example, all right? What made Cuomo's censorship directive particularly stunning was that just 2 months prior to the issuing of the decree, he ordered New York State agencies to boycott North Carolina in the protest state's anti-LGBT law. Yep, he's a pro-centrist, a centralizer. 2 years earlier, Cuomo banned New York State employees from all essential jobs in Indiana to boycott the state's examination of an anti-LGBT law. Rights of individuals, or you want special treatments? I don't believe in special treatment because that hurts everyone else, folks. So Cuomo mandated his own state employees boycott to other states within his own country. A boycott that by design would harm U.S. businesses while prohibiting New York's private citizens from supporting a similar boycott or a foreign nation upon base pain of being barred from receiving contracts in the state of New York. That such a priority scheme is so pervasive, whereby boycotts aimed at U.S. businesses are permitted or even encouraged, but boycotts aimed at Israeli businesses are outlawed, speaks volumes about the state of U.S. politics and free expression, none of it good. Like, I'll tell you this, it's called neo-mercantilism. There's a little article, some stuff here about the bans. You know, Cuomo's a chump. He better not run for president either. I'm sick of all these clowns. I will continue on here. Following Cuomo's Texas GOP nominated state legislature and numerous other state governments controlled by both parties, the U.S. Congress, prodded by AIPAC, began planning its own national bill to use the force of law to punish Americans for a crime of supporting boycott of Israel. In July of last year, a group of 43 senators, 29 Republicans, and 14 Democrats supported a law called the Israel Anti-Boycott Act, which is Senate Bill 720, introduced by Republicans, Democrat Senator Benjamin Cardin of Maryland, that would criminalize participation of any international boycott of Israel. Can we say victimless crime referendum? After the American Civil Liberties Union issued a statement vehemently condemning Cardin's bill as an attack on the core free speech rights, one which would punish individuals for no reason other than their political beliefs, numerous senators announced that they were reconsidering their support. But as now the Intercept reported last week, version of the bill is back and is pending in the lame duck session. Cardin is making behind the scenes a push to slip an anti-boycott law into the last-minute spending bill being finalized in the lame duck session. The ACLU has also condemned the latest bill because its intent and the intent of the underlying state laws it purports to uphold are contrary to the split and a letter to the First Amendment guarantees of freedom of speech and association, as the ACLU warned in a recent action advisory, and you can read this yourselves. Very distasteful. While the new version clarifies that people cannot face jail time for participating in a boycott, the ACLU insists that it still leaves doors for open criminal financial penalties for anyone found to be participating in or even advocating a boycott of Israel. More dangerous attacks on free expression are difficult to imagine. Nobody who claims to be a defender of free speech or free expression on the right, the left, or anything in between can possibly justify silence in such a coordinated and pure assault of these most basic rights of free speech and association. One common misconception is that the First Amendment's guarantee of free speech only bars the state from imprisoning or otherwise punishing people for speaking, but it does not bar the state from conditioning the receipt of directory benefits, such as state benefits or jobs, or refraining from expressing particular opinions. Aside from the fact that, with some rare and narrow exceptions, courts have repeatedly held that the government is constitutionally barred under the First Amendment from conditioning government benefits on speech requirement. Such as, say, an enacting bill that states that only liberals or conservatives shall be eligible for unemployment benefits. The constitutional nature of Texas towards Bahia and Maui should be self-evident. Imagine if, instead of being forced by the state to vow never to boycott Israel as a condition for continuing to work as a speech pathologist, Maui was forced to pledge she will never advocate for LGBT equality or never will engage in activity in support of or in opposition to gun rights or abortion restrictions by joining the NRA or Planned Parenthood, or never subscribe to Vox or the Daily Caller. Interesting there. So he got some good points. Or never participate in the boycott of Iran, North Korea, Venezuela, Cuba, or Russia due to a vehement disagreement with those government policies. The tyrannical free speech denial would be self-evident, and in many of those comparable cases, the trans ideological uproar would be instantaneous, as Laura Friedman, president of the Foundation for Middle East Peace, warned. This template could be repurposed to bar contracts with individuals or groups affiliated with or supportive of any political cause or organization, from the political left or right, that the majority in a legislature or the occupant of a governor's office deemed undesirable. And recall that 2012 Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel tried to block zoning permits allowing Chick-fil-A to expand due to his personal disagreement with the anti-LGBT activism of that company's top executive. As I wrote in the Time in condemning the unconstitutional nature of Chicago Mayor's actions, if you support what Emanuel is doing here, then you should be equally supportive of a mayor in Texas or a governor in Idaho who blocks businesses from opening if they are run by those who support same-sex marriages, or one who opposes American wars, or who support reproductive rights, or who favors single-payer health care, or which donates to LGBT groups and Planned Parenthood on the ground that such views are offensive to Christian and other conservative residents. Those official efforts in Chicago, followed by mayors of other liberal cities, to punish Chick-fil-A due to its executive negative views on LGBT equality, were widely condemned even by liberal commentators who were horrified that mayors would abuse their power to condition zoning rights based on a private citizen's political viewpoint on a controversial issue. Well, go figure. He's a mayor. He's Rahm Emanuel. He thinks he's smarter than everybody else. I mean, and they say he's a dual citizen of Israel. Can we say what a coincidence? Yeah, allegedly speaking. So I'll continue on here. Obviously, if a company discriminated against LGBT employees in violation of the law, it would be legitimate to act against them. But as Mother Jones Kevin Drum correctly noted, that was a case of pure censorship. There's really no excuse for Emanuel and Mayor Menino's actions. And you don't hand out business licenses based on whether you agree with political views of the executives. Not in America anyway. I don't even read Mother Jones. You know what? You got to thank Kevin for that. He's right. It's always got to look at everything. You know, I'm almost done this paragraph. I know it's nice and long, folks, but hopefully you will be putting up with me. The ACLU of Illinois also denounced the efforts by Chicago against Chick-fil-A as wrong and dangerous, adding, "We oppose the using power of authority, government to retaliate against those who express messages that are controversial or adverse to the views of current office holders. That, by definition, is the only position that a genuine free speech defender can hold, regardless of agreement or disagreement with the specific political viewpoint being punished." Last week, the ACLU Senior Legislative Counsel, Katie Rand, explained why even the modified, watered-down, fully bipartisan version of the Israel Oath Bill pending in the U.S. Congress and especially already enacted bill in 26 states of the kind just resulted in Malawi's termination or direct violation of the most fundamental free speech rights. There's a full scale on American First Amendment freedoms. Political boycotts, including boycotts of foreign countries, have played a pivotal role in this nation's history, from a boycott of British goods during the American Revolution to the Montgomery bus boycott to campaigns to divest from apartheid South Africa. And the NAACP versus Claiborne Harwood Supreme Court made clear that the First Amendment protects the rights to participate in political boycotts. End of story. Lawsuit which Malawi filed similarly explains that economic boycotts for the purpose of bringing about political change are entrenched in American history, beginning with colonial boycotts of the British tea. Later, the civil rights movement relied heavily on boycotts to combat racism and spur societal change. The Supreme Court has recognized in Claiborne that nonviolent boycotts intended to advance civil rights constitute form of free speech or conduct, ordinarily entitled protection under the First and 14th Amendments. And the 14th Amendments. And you know, I did a show about that, about how the 14th Amendment is considered unconstitutional. So I would like to say this. In that aspect, I'm not going to argue, but I can say this. The 9th Amendment is very essential. Rights pertain to the people. So put that in your memo, folks, all right? Who can justify that as a condition for working with speech-impaired and developmentally disabled children? Malawi is forced by the state to violate her conscience and renounce her political beliefs by boycotting products from a country that she believes, in accordance with the UN, is illegal and brutally occupying land that does not belong to it. That's the question. Whether or not if you agree with her political view about Israel and Palestine, every American with even a minimal belief in the value of free speech should be vocally denouncing the attack on Malawi's free speech rights and other Americans who are being similarly oppressed by these Israeli protecting censorship laws in the United States. As these Israel oath laws have proliferated, some commentators from across the ideological spectrum have noted what a profound threat to free speech they pose. The Foundation for Middle East Peace Freeman, for instance, explains that it requires a little imagination to see how criminalizing America's participation in political boycotts of Israel could pave the way for further infringements to Americans' right to support or join internationally backed protests on other issues. She currently describes such as law as a free speech exception for Israel. Libertarian lawyer Walter Olson, a senior fellow at the Cato Institute Center for Constitutional Studies, similarly warned it is not proper function of the law to force Americans into carrying on foreign commerce they personally find politically objectionable, whether their reasons to be for reluctance to be good, bad, or arbitrary. Okay, something to look at here. Of course, National Review's Noah DePonent Smith last year denounced the Cardin bill seeking to criminalize the advocacy of an Israel boycott as so mind-boggling, stupid that it's hard to know exactly what to say about it, adding that the bill penalizes political beliefs and so is both unconstitutional and unconscionable. The conservative writer continued, the senator who currently support it should be quite frankly, ashamed of themselves. They have lost sight of one of the founding principles of American government, allowing it to be overshadowed by the spectral world of the Israeli-Palestinian dispute. Meanwhile, through there is an entire pundit class that has made very lucrative careers from posing as defenders for crusaders for free speech, from Jonathan Chait, Bill Maher, and Barry Weiss, to the glittering renegades of the dark intellectual dark web, who fall notoriously silent when even ever censorship is aimed at critics of Israel. There are some exceptions. So some rare exceptions, such as Chait tweeted about Cardin's bill, BDS is awful, but this bill criminalizes it sounds insane and unconstitutional. And when Weiss criticized Israel for barring Jewish American boycott advocate from entering. See, look at that. So And as it says here, CNN's recent firing of Mark Lambert Hill due to his pro-Palestinian speech and the threats from the chairman of Temple University's Board of Trustees to fire Hill has tenured position over his contempt for the views, and that speech produced not a word of protest from this crowd. The same was true from University of Illinois' costly decision to rescind a teaching offer to Palestinian American professor Stephen Salia for the thought crime of condemning Israel's bombing Gaza. But as The Intercept has repeatedly documented, the most frequent victims of official campus censorship are not conservative polemicists, but pro-Palestinian activists, and the greatest, most severe threat posed to free speech throughout the West is aimed at Israel critics. From the arresting of French citizens for the crime of wearing Boycott Israel t-shirt to Canadian boycott activists being overly threatened without prosecution to a partial British criminalization of the boycott of Israel. But simply, it is impossible to be credible, effective, genuine advocate of free speech and free discourse without objecting to the organized, orchestrated, sustained onslaught of the attacks on the free speech and free association rights undertaken specifically to protect the Israeli government from criticism and activism. Self-professed free speech defenders who only invoke that the principle when their political allies are targeted are, by definition, charlatans and frauds. Generally, free speech advocates object to censorship even when the free speech rights of their political adversaries are assaulted. Anyone who stands by silently while Bahia Amari is forced out of a profession she has worked so hard to construct, all because of her refusal to renounce her political views and activism, while the young children she helps are denied the professional support they need and deserve, can legitimately and accurately call themselves many things. Free speech supporters is most definitely not one of them. Can't disagree with Mr. Greenwald on this article. I know it was nice and long. So, one thing I could tell you folks with this whole BDS law. Article 1, Section 3, Equal Rights from the Texas Constitution states, all free men, when they form a social compact, have equal rights, and no man or a set of men is entitled to exclusively separate public emoluments or privileges but in consideration of public services. And we can go here, 3A. Equality under law. Equality under law shall not be denied or abridged because of sex, race, color, creed, and national origin. The amendment is still self-operative. And I'm going to go down to Section 8. Every person shall be at liberty to speak, write, or publish his opinions on any subject, being responsible for the abuse of that privilege, and no law shall ever be passed curtailing the liberty of speech or the press. Okay? That's the first sentence, folks. And I'll continue on here. In prosecutions for the publication of papers investigating the conduct of officers or men in public capacity, or when the matter is published or proper for public information, the truth thereof may be given in evidence. All indictments for libels, the jury have the right to determine of the law and the facts under the direction of the court, as in the other cases. So, in that aspect, my friends, this law and many others on the state level violates their own state constitutions, their supreme law. This one here, this Texas code, does not supersede the supreme law of the state of Texas. So it's too bad, Mr. Abbott. and all the people legislators that voted for this. You already breached your oath of office under your state constitution. With all due respect and in good faith, it's null and void. That includes all the other states. That you can add the state of Florida as well. Null and void, flip-flop Rick Scott and all the lackeys that voted for this. And Andrew Cuomo. You get defensive, give yourselves a bunch of penile microphones, because that's one thing you're very good at. You're mumbling. You don't work for Israel. You work for the people of those states you're supposed to represent. Deep down inside, you know I'm right. Anyone want to counter me this? Argue with me about it? Bring it. I don't care. Free speech is more important than your feelings. If you don't like it, get the hell out of my country. I support a republic, not a corporation or an Israeli chartered nation or any other foreign occupied nation. Okay? That's the damn truth. And I say that ethically. And that is it. I thank everyone for listening, plus feel free to download and share us on social media networks. Before I go, I'm going to add the Federalist Papers to this footnotes, 2 through 5, written by John Jay. Alright? So that's the thing you got to look at. You got some people who don't know how to drive. So I'm going to add that and the footnotes to this episode. Plus, if you want to have any questions, comments, or if you see something interesting you might want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence to Decorum. I will post all my social media sites and email addresses. Alright? Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.